Hi everyone, welcome back. So today's video is going to be a fairly simple one. I'm not making anything. I'm only showcasing one of my latest commissions. For those of you who don't already know, I take cosplay commissions. To get more information on that, just email me directly. My business email will be in the description box below. That aside, I recently had a client commission 4 costumes from me, and they were all from the same series, which is Demon Slayer, which is a series that I love, and I love making costumes from that series. I'm gonna go over everything I did. They're not all from the Demon Slayer core, but they are in fact all from Demon Slayer. Actually, I should preface this with something here. Spoiler alert for season 3. If you haven't watched it and you don't want to be spoiled, move along or skip to this number. So just to establish a little bit of context, the person who commissioned 4 costumes, 2 for themselves and 2 for their siblings, and they are twins. So the tunics that were commissioned were the ones that Muichiro and Yuichiro wear in their childhood, so in the flashbacks. So obviously the first thing I needed to get just right for those 2 pieces was the fabric. They have a very specific and distinctive pattern on them, and I really wanted to nail that. Otherwise, you kind of lose the whole impression of the costume. So what I did for that is I custom made those patterns on one of my computer softwares and then got them printed from Spoonflower. I don't remember the name of the fabric I got them printed on. I'll write it somewhere on the screen, but it's 100% cotton, that I know for sure. Are they? I was very happy with how the fabrics turned out. The colors are very bright. They look exactly like what I had anticipated they would and like what's in the show. So to build this piece, I used one of Needle Workshop's pattern. It's the name of the pattern, if I remember well, it's like a 2-piece kimono or something like that. It's the one you can use to make Nezuko, but in this case, I used only the top and elongated it and did some minor modifications to accommodate for this specific design. And it's very easy to put on. You kind of just go left, right. There's like cords to attach them in place. And then on top, you have a sash. In terms of historical accuracy, we're not going with any kind of historical accuracy. I'm not particularly well knowledgeed in the finer details of Japanese historical outfits. So we're just going with what I saw in the show. So I'm pretty sure originally the sash would be tied in some kind of manner, like OBs are. But in this case, we want to keep it simple. So it's just a little Velcro at the back, and nothing fancy. If the client would want something different, I would accommodate for that. But here we're just going with simple cosplay, simple maintenance, simple to wear, because that's what most people like in their costumes. So yeah, and I think it looks great. Obviously we have it in blue, and then we have it in like dark blue, almost black. Yeah. So the darker one, because there's a lot more dye to get the black, is a bit stiffer, but that's normal. There's not much you can do. It's just because of the way it's printed. The 2 pieces are very easy to care and maintain for. You can throw them in the wash. I would not recommend putting them in the dryer personally. I don't put any expensive outfits in the dryer. I would hang dry. And then since it's mostly cotton, or 100% cotton if I'm not mistaken, you can easily iron it with a flat iron and get a really nice crisp costume. And that's that. So moving on to the third, because this is costume 1 and costume 2, we have just a pair of pants. I was asked to make a nose case pants, but I was not requested to make any of the fur pieces, so I only made the pants. Again, I used the Needle Workshop pattern for this, but there is some modifications to be done because in the show, Inosuke is the only one who wears a pair of pants that is not high-waisted. It's actually a drop waist, so it's like a hip level pair of pants. Now, because he doesn't wear the belt like the other ones do, there's no need for the belt loops to be in there because everything's going to be hidden by the fur. And to accommodate to the possibility that a client can gain or lose weight, I sometimes offer to put an elastic band, especially when it's in a costume where that detail won't be seen. And in this case, the fur would completely hide that. And when I say an elastic band, I mean a minor amount, just to give a little bit of ease if ever the person gains a bit of weight or to remove a little bit of ease if the person loses weight. So it doesn't actually impact the final visual design of the costume itself. So I did quickly just grabbed a little piece of fur just to give a visual idea of what it would look like on the pants. So you can see me draping it kind of around the waist slightly and then wrapping it around the leg. As per usual, the lower part of the pants are cuffed with a stretch fabric. This makes applying any wrap pieces around that part of the leg easier and keeps your pants always cuffed in a nice poofy manner. So for Inosuke's pants, it's also fairly easy to maintain. You can definitely put it in the wash. Again, I would not recommend putting it in the dryer, but mostly because I would be scared to mess up all the pleats. What I would do is I would hang it dry and then use a steamer to remove any kind of wrinkle. His pants are actually made from a fabric that is high in polyester. The reason I like to use those in costumes specifically, or costumes that have a lot of pleats, is that it really helps eliminate the accumulation of wrinkles. It doesn't wrinkle easily, but once it's out of the wash, you might still need to iron it. But ironing it, because of the pleats and because of the gathers at the lower part, makes it really hard, tricky, and very annoying. So what I'd recommend is simply to get a hanger that clips onto your pants so you can hang them like straight down. And then you take a small steamer. You can find them online for really cheap, or you can even buy them at a local like electronics store probably. And you just steam the pants. And they're really small now, so you can actually easily put one in a suitcase and take it with you to a con. I know I do all the time, and it's also very practical because if you buy costumes, like cheaper made costumes from online mass retail stores for cosplay, they're often made from cheaper materials which can be more sensitive to heat, so sometimes ironing them can break them, so using a steamer is safer. That's my hot tip for you. Take care of your costumes, even if they're the cheaper ones. You still want to take care of them. So moving on to the next one. So for the fourth piece, that's where we have like the full outfit. In my opinion, it's quite an elaborate piece. And that would be Tanjiro's costume. So Tanjiro has a shirt, a pair of pants, belt, lower leg wrap pieces, and a haori. And I made all of those. So I guess we'll start with the shirt, but just to clarify once again, I did use the Needle Workshop patterns as my base for both shirt and the pants of Tanjiro, and in this case they had barely been modified. And the fabric for this one, and it's the same fabric for the pants, is actually a lot higher in cotton than polyester, which is not usually what I like to lean into, but the reason for that is that this particular fabric, which is a really nice suiting fabric, is the perfect color for Tanjiro. It's like that dark brown plum color that is really hard to find. So once I found the right color and in a fabric that is actually really good fabric, there was no going back. I was like, we're gonna have to sacrifice on the wrinklage here, which means it's more prone to being wrinkled. Does not mean that it's impossible to take care of, so I will give a bit more information on that. The design of the back definitely cannot go into any kind of heat when being washed. Personally, I would recommend dry cleaner if you can. But if dry cleaner is too expensive and unaffordable, then it's cold water, hang dry only. And then when it inevitably gets crinkly, you iron with a flat iron, and you do so on the wrong side of the fabric to not mess up any of the vinyl applique. Plus, depending on the kind of materials you use for the white accent, that might not be good to be ironed out with heat, because I know like for my Mitsuri, I had used faux leather, and faux leather, again, you can't apply an iron straight on it. You'll want to protect that with a piece of scrap cloth, but I can't remember for the life of me if I used faux leather or if I used regular fabric for Tanjiro. I think I did. So in that case, you would definitely not want to iron on that. You want to protect it with some kind of scrap of fabric, put it on top, and then iron. Or iron on the wrong side of fabric, but make sure that your iron, once again, does not come into contact with any faux leather, because the faux leather is plastic, it will melt. So yeah, I think that's everything for the shirt. So afterwards you would want to put on the pants. They tie up at the back. And once again, for the maintenance, you can definitely wash them in the wash, hang dry only, and use a steamer like you would with the ones for Inosuke to take out all the wrinkles. It works. I actually put it through the wash and then used my steamer to iron out all the wrinkles. So Let's move on to a really interesting piece, in my opinion. This one is my original pattern. I couldn't find a pattern for this anywhere. It's my original design. I do not know if Tanjiro's leg wrap pieces are based on any kind of historical Japanese garment. So if you do know, please let me know in the comments section. Enlighten me. I'd love to hear more about it and know what they would be called. For this, I just went with the design from the show and tried to mimic it one-to-one as much as possible. So the whole piece is like an understructure with 3 bands that have these permanently like wrinkled pleats in them to make it look like it's wrapped, but it allows me to put these big tabs at the back, which he has, which are so funny looking, but they look kind of cool at the same time. I really like the design of Tanjiro's overall outfit. So the way you would put these on, according to my own design, is that you would have to zip the back, and then each tab has a button that matches to a buttonhole, obviously, but also a section with Velcro. And you can definitely do it from the back, but if it's hard, you can do it at the front and then shift them towards the back. Yeah. Again, the pants had that cuff section to make it easier to put these in place and not shift around all your pleats and keep them kind of like evenly spaced out. And yeah, I'm really proud of these. I think they turned out so nice. I think they look really, really cool, and they're easy maintenance. You can put them in the wash, you can put them in the dryer. I mean, if they wrinkle, they wrinkle. Like, they already have these permanent pleats in them, like wrinkles, that it doesn't really matter. Like, there's no way to make it look bad and unfinished. And then last but most definitely not least, I had to make his haori. So for the haori, again, I used the Needle Workshop pattern, but again, I had to do some modifications to this one because his haori doesn't have a big band, which the Needle Workshop pattern does. So I had to remove that, but then you have to add back in some of that length. And the one that the Needle Workshop has overlap, but in this case, I didn't want overlap, so I also modified it so it would come down straight, which is more similar to another design that we have available. So it's like a combination of things here. To make it, instead of getting custom fabric like I did for the tunics for the twins, I actually just cut out a bunch of green and black squares, sewed them together to create the pattern from his haori, which I think looks really nice. It's like one of those like really nice professional touches that you probably won't find online because it's too expensive to produce. And then because we have that going on, we have to hide those seams that it creates by putting in a lining layer. So the full thing is lined with a white section and including in the sleeves. So it's really, really like neatly finished. And because we have a lining, that allows me to put in pockets and you can't see them when it's open, which looks really cool and is very convenient. Let's face it, most people wear their costumes at conventions, so having pockets is always a blessing. There's never too many pockets. So when it comes to haoris, I have seen a fair share of them from my trips in Japan and from like pieces that I've seen like in ryokans and stuff. I have seen haoris have fairly short sleeves, like almost like 3/4 sleeves, and I've seen some with longer sleeves. Personally, I prefer a shorter sleeve for these types of costumes because unless you're doing iguro, which has really, really long sleeves, most of them, when they're wearing it, you can see a lot of the sleeves, like of the shirt that's underneath. When you make the sleeve too long, it's less likely that you're able to see that section of the sleeve. Now, this is super subjective. Some people might like it longer, some people might like it shorter. So this is the kind of detail that I would confirm with the client before moving forward and taking that kind of decision. I'm really happy how it turned out once again. Now, because the piece is fully lined, you can't wash it in the wash. You can't. It's really not something I would recommend. It would be very hard to get it to look nice. And because of all the seam allowance, you don't want it to get all messed up. So you don't want to put it in the wash. It's cotton. It's going to get super wrinkled and it's going to be super hard to iron out properly because of the lining. That is a piece that I would exclusively dry clean only. It's kind of like a suit jacket. You don't put a suit jacket in the wash because of the lining. There's too much going on and it's practically impossible to get it ironed out properly afterwards. In this case, it's even worse because of all that seam allowance that's going on underneath the lining layer due to the fact that the whole thing is made from many little squares. That's definitely something that is just how it is. Sometimes costumes just be like that. But yeah, I think that covers all the pieces for Tanjiro. So these are the 4 costumes that I made. Got me very excited, especially because I love like Tokito Muichiro so much, and it has me like wanting to make my own Muichiro costume for myself. So next on the channel, there is one last video relating to the Fan Fest, which I know is taking a while to come out, but will be coming out. And then I think I'm gonna be focusing on making the Muichiro cosplay, but it'll be done with Needle Workshop. We are reworking one of our tutorials from a very popular pattern, which is the one that you can use to make most of the Demon Slayer core uniforms. So because we're taking the time to do all that, I figured it's a good opportunity to make myself a shirt for myself. And I've been wanting to make Muichiro, so I'm going to take that opportunity and make myself Muichiro, obviously with the approval of the crew. And I'm also going to be probably showcasing how I make his pants, all on Needle Workshop's channel. On my channel, maybe I'll go over how I do the wig and some behind the scenes of different shoots or something like that. So that's what's to come. So stay tuned for that and go check out Needle Workshop if you want to make your own cosplays. There's a lot of information there that I obviously won't share here because this is just my personal stuff that I make here. So yeah, I think that wraps up today's video. If you like this kind of content, give it a big thumbs up. You can check me out on Instagram. I also post all of my photos on Crop to Ko-fi, where you can also support me if you feel like it. No pressure. I think that's it. So hopefully I'll be seeing you again. And if not, have a good life and thanks for stopping by. Bye.